Good day, 21st century learners. Glam with me, your momshi or teacher Irish Marie. And together, let us sail on through English in this 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world. In today's lesson, I want everyone to embrace the tales from the past to present, fall in love with the expressions of humanity, and speak the language of your imagination. Let us travel from lesson to lesson, discover treasures, and experience an extraordinary tale as we journey through context and text meaning of Philippine literary pieces. This time, I want you to log in at kahoot.com to answer the 10-item questions, and later we'll find out among you here who still remember our previous lesson that is of course in relation to our topic today. By the way, as you can see on screen, we already have a result of Han Elirog's pre-assessment result. I went to their house, brought him home because he doesn't have any available gadget to be used for our online class. And obviously, he lives in a far-flung area here in Siargao. This idea of presenting to you this kind of strategy, specifically on explaining the submitted online output of a particular student who participated the online gamification application Kahoot.com, is actually taken from DepEd's COT RPMS rating sheet in the new normal education. Indicator 2, during classroom observation on demo teaching, says that the teacher to be observed needs to plan and deliver teaching strategies that are responsive to the special educational needs of the learners in difficult circumstances, including geographic isolation, chronic illness, displacement due to armed conflict, urban resettlement, or disasters, child abuse, and child labor practices. Nevertheless, this is just a portion of the totality of my teaching demonstration, targeting indicator number 2. A lot was definitely observed that of course support the highest rating for this indicator. Now, why gamification? In a literature review about gamification applications in e-learning, it clearly says that the usage of gamification in education is a massive benefit for motivation, user interaction, and social effects. So, Kahoot or Kahoot game as a gamification tool is indeed effective to explore mixed learning strategies specifically and especially now that classes are usually done virtually or perhaps in the case of the Department of Education in a modular distance learning. Furthermore, the results on literature mapping about gamification in the teaching and learning processes also say that gamification can help motivate students to achieve their learning goals. That is according to Bison and Kukakoyun in 2018, Laws and Crosby in 2017, Maynil and Schwiger in 2016. Nevertheless, in some cases, motivation decreases slightly when using gamified tools because the novelty of the incorporated tools disappears over the time. That is according to Messi and Osgur Johnson in 2019, Van Roy and Zaman in 2018. To combat these researchers, to combat this kind of issue, researchers recommend increasing the level of difficulty sequentially and incorporating surprise elements. On the content of the quiz using Kahoot.com, since we are doing the multiple choice type of activity, for example, Kahoot game is also an effective tool in teaching reading comprehension achievement. Learners do not just choose or select the best answer, but read each choice carefully, thus developing as well their comprehension on the text. On screen, of course, is just an example of the choices that develop learners' reading comprehension. The choices were actually derived from the book Literature and Language by Gillian Lazar. Now, As the teacher moves to the lesson proper, in which a specific literary piece will be introduced, a poem, for instance, in self-learning module in the 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world, a poem written by the teacher during lockdown could be a good example. Here, a focus on the approaches employed by teachers in the teaching literature component in English will be of great value and interest. Teachers' approaches in the teaching of literature in schools, Carter and Long 20 or 1991 suggests that there are three models in the teaching of literature. Each has unique features and components, but today let us focus only on one specific model. Notice that right at the beginning of delivering the lesson, language proficiency by using literature is already developed among learners themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to one of the models of teaching literature in English, the language model. This model aims to be more learner-centered, and according to Lazar in 1993, language models see literary texts as sources for language practice through a series of language activities. Now, the above-mentioned models have been incorporated in various approaches in teaching of literature and approaches to the way of teaching and learning. It gives rise to the methods, the way of teaching something, which uses classroom activities or techniques to help learners learn. There are 6 approaches to teaching of literature. Language-based approach, paraphrastic approach, information-based approach, personal response approach, moral philosophical approach, and a stylistic approach. As the teacher begins introducing the literary piece, the language-based approach can be used in a way that the teacher guides the students to give their opinion towards the text, and a specific language activity is set in the literature lesson. The teacher this time encourages the students to actively participate in familiarizing the text's meaning. One way to generate language practice using the text is poetry recital. A learner using this kind of activity develops reading, speaking, and listening skills. Each learner participant needs to be attentive because this poem will be recited one after the other. So, all of the learners will be given the chance to showcase their expression and style of reading the text, after which text and context meaning will be realized by the learners themselves. Now, since the text is expressed both figuratively and literally, the teacher unlocks first the structure of the poem and the meaning of imagery. After which, it is again the learner's turn to unlock the text's meaning. The author clearly used imagery in the poem, such as visual, auditory, and kinesthetic imagery. It is the learner's task to write or identify the words that suggest each type of imagery. Now, applying Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, the teacher will present a video on visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning styles to help the learners determine whether he or she is a visual learner, an auditory learner, or a kinesthetic learner. In the synchronous class, the text as a whole will not be analyzed by the single person, but a collaboration of all the members in the class, so that clear understanding will be maximized. For the learners to be sensitive to the